in a decade. He just owned the paint on both ends of the floor. You see him jamming on one side and then stuffing Devin Booker at the rim at the other. He had 5 blocks to go along with 50 points in this game. Look at him putting Frank Kaminsky on a poster, and then with the shot clock winding down, watch him again. He was just spectacular. They were going crazy in the arena last night. They were going crazier outside the arena last night. A celebration, a half a century in the making. Giannis with 50, the MVP. The Bucks win it. And after the game, Phoenix coach Monty Williams went to the victorious locker room to offer his congratulations.
I just wanted to come and congratulate you guys as a man, as a coach. You guys deserve it. And I'm thankful for the experience. You guys made me a better coach. You made us a better team. Congratulations.
Wow, just class for days. What else can you say? And then early this morning, just a few hours ago, Giannis welcomed the championship and finals MVP trophies into his home. Look at him there in his Instagram there, perched in his kitchen, tucked him into his bed as well. What a spectacular night this was for the city of Milwaukee, for Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think for basketball fans literally all over the world. And Tim Legler rejoins us here. And you and I were having a brief conversation before we came on the air this morning. You and I agree on one thing, and not everybody does. Not all rings are created equal. Some mean more than others for the legacies of players. What does this one mean for Giannis?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I argue with people all the time about it, but I am of the belief that they're not all created equal, Greeny. I think some do carry more weight. And I think when you start talking about guys that win one with the team that they started out with, particularly if it's a smaller market team that traditionally has a very difficult time bringing in free agents. It's tough for certain cities and certain teams historically to bring in guys to get enough help. So when you draft a guy, particularly in the middle of the first round, and turns himself into this and carries this franchise to a championship, a proud franchise, by the way. They got great basketball tradition, even if it hasn't led to titles over the years. They've always been historically good. This is something they haven't done in 50 years. This carries more weight, I'm sorry, it does, than when guys go and orchestrate ending up in certain places to almost guarantee themselves a better opportunity to win. There was no guarantee that this would happen when they drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo. There was no guarantee prior to adding Jrue Holiday that this would ever happen. There certainly wasn't a guarantee when he took that contract and decided to stay here. A lot of guys wouldn't have chosen the path, as we can see. And going forward, more guys are going to choose the path of joining up with other stars in certain places than this path. He's going to be a rarity in terms of what he has just accomplished and what he chose to do. So absolutely, to me, it carries more weight. Just like I think Steph Curry's first championship carries more weight than the 2 he won with Kevin Durant. I actually think LeBron's championship he won in Cleveland, because of the significance to the franchise, means more than the 2 that he won in Miami in creating that situation with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. So I personally do believe they all carry different weight historically. And what do I mean by that? How we view it. Guys like us that analyze the game, the fan base, how fans in general of the game view this type of accomplishment. I think it is just different. And this is obviously historic because he accepted the weight and the responsibility that comes with who he is and what he has made himself as a player with this franchise. And I applaud him for it. He's impossible not to like, and this team in general, impossible not to pull for.
Let the record show for anyone who is yelling at Tim Legler on Twitter as a result of those that I fully and wholeheartedly agree with and endorse every word you just said, and I will spend 2 hours talking about that on the radio today. In the meantime, you also know that the world in which we live today, Tim, 5 minutes after it is over, the first question people will ask is, can they do it again? So, Tim Legler, can they do it again?
Yes, I think they can. Obviously, the Brooklyn Nets are looming, and they broke down this year physically. But who knows what they're going to be able to do together. We only saw that group together a handful of games last year. So who knows? They've got a lot to prove to themselves. But take them off to the side because they're in a special category. Look at the rest of the East in particular. There's so many questions about all of these teams. There are no questions about this particular group. And I think breaking through what that is going to do in terms of confidence, in terms of how they handle pressure going forward, The weight has been lifted, and now I think this could be the start of a phenomenal run for this group, as long as they can keep their stars together. They've got guys locked up contractually. They've got great chemistry. They've got tremendous leadership. Most importantly, a guy who just won Finals MVP, Greeny, who is not going to rest on his laurels. This guy is going to continue to work and push himself because he is hungry to be an all-time great. This could be the start of something phenomenal for Milwaukee.
Yeah, he's not yet 27 years old. Vegas likes them as the third likeliest team to win it next year. The Nets are the favorites, followed by the Lakers, and then the defending champion Bucks. Timmy Legler, outstanding.
First off, good morning to you all. And
it's been a minute,
you're exactly. I said last night it was the most impressive closeout game performance I have ever witnessed, and I don't know that there could be a better one. And it's not just hyperbole; it's also when you factor in how dominant he was defensively. He had 5 blocks in that game. He altered many other shots. He disrupted a lot of paint attacks by Booker and Paul. And, then the energy he had and the zone he was in, going 17 of 19 from the free throw line. And then you remember, this wasn't a game where offensively the other two big guns gave him a lot of help. I mean, Middleton was solid, in a game that was more defensive oriented, but you look at he and Holiday's number, they were 10 of 32 from the field. So they weren't providing the same level of consistency offensively, and it didn't matter. Giannis was just not to be denied. I just had never seen him play that well. We've seen him be a dominant force, but he was so efficient, and he made all the big shots. There had been all this narrative, and a lot of our friends in the media, well, who's Batman, who's Robin and on their team, and as if there was ever any doubt as who the most dominant player was. And I'd like to equate Giannis with I've said this to friends. Giannis is a modern day Shaq. He's that dominant in the paint. He just does it the way you have to do it today. You couldn't be Shaq the way Shaq played, 20 years ago. You'd have to be able to do it in an evolved way, and that's what Giannis is. He's physically a force. He's so much faster and stronger than most people that size, and his now IQ has grown. His ability to pass the basketball. His trust in his teammates. It was all on display last night, and he was just not to be denied, nor was he going to allow Milwaukee to be denied from the glory of winning that championship after 50 years.
Greg, what happens when somebody wins a championship a certain way, kind of organically homegrown, fracking takes place, right? That means everybody else starts saying, okay, how did they do it? Let's break it down. Maybe we can emulate that, right? And I listened to some of the comments of Dame Dollar, Dame Lillard out there in Portland. Is this maybe the blueprint for them to take advantage of their great player, push all the chips in, and surround him with the Drew Holidays or whatever that would equate to in Portland?
Listen, it can happen, but in reality, this didn't happen overnight. I don't think that Damian Lillard's going to have another 6-7 years before someone evolves into what we saw with Chris Middleton, right? Chris Middleton went from being a second-round pick, guy who was playing in the developmental league, to now being a world champion, an all-star, and a potential gold medalist in the Olympics as he's made that team. So their journey has been organic in that regard. But even in that regard, they still had to make a monster deal to go out and get in Drew Holiday. While Drew might not make an all-NBA team, he's as good as any guard playing in terms of how he can impact the game. And so they had to go out and make moves. They had to go out and get P.J. Tucker, who, while he didn't score a point last night, he was incredible, as he has been this entire series. So, I guess sometimes we